My name is Jeffrey Matthews, and the PAD has taught me the value of community.
My guest today on the PAD podcast is the one, the only Jeffery Matthews. Jeffery Matthews has been teaching in the Performing Arts Department since 1988. He teaches courses in acting, directing, voice and speech, and theater for young audiences. He's a professional director, actor, dialect specialist. He was on the artistic staff of the Repertory Theater St. Louis for 20 years as the artistic supervisor of the Imaginary Theater Company, the Rep's touring children's professional company. So with that, I invite you to take a close listen to this one. It's a special one. Our hats off to Jeffery Matthews for 38 years of teaching in the Performing Arts Department. I try to do that length of time justice. So with that, enjoy. My guest today on the PAD podcast is my beloved colleague, someone who recruited me to teach at WashU 15 years ago, and I thought that was a long time. But my beloved colleague, Jeffery Matthews. Jeffery Matthews is the guest today on the PAD podcast. Jeffery, thank you so much for doing this, for leaping in and being a featured guest on the podcast.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. There's nothing more fun than talking about me.
That's true. That's true. Well, I sincerely appreciate it. And there is another podcast episode featuring your colleague, Anna Maria Pileggi. And so the two of you are going to be leaving us. I guess no amount of crying on my part or begging is going to keep you, it's going to keep you here. But since 2011, I've been here, and you actually were an instrumental part of my choosing to come from University of Washington to Washington University. That's right. I just switched a couple of words. And so I'm very, very grateful to you. And ever since then, we've been delighted. I've been delighted to sort of know you, inspired by you, as many of our students have been. So thank you. Thank you for doing this. I'm going to try to do it justice. I'm going to try to do 38 years of work at WashU since 1988, from what I can tell. You know, you've been here so long. I'm going to try to do my damnedest to honor you as you should be. So with that little maybe pathetic introduction on my part, how did you get here? Tell me a little bit about your upbringing, and then your schooling, and then what brought you to WashU in 1988.
Oh gosh, okay. In a nutshell, my upbringing is I sort of thought of myself as a kid as a free range child because I grew up on a nursery farm
Really?
in the country, and but in during my childhood that country became a suburb, and so we had, I think, 11 acres of trees.
Wow.
It was our yard basically, and we that we would sell. So much of my childhood was kind of out there in the nursery and having fun with all of the workers and that sort of thing as a kid.
Wow. What part of
And
the country was this in?
in Toledo,
Toledo,
Ohio,
Ohio.
yeah,
Gotcha.
and it was. I mean, it was just really, I have really fond memories of my childhood. And we were kind of alone. We didn't have a lot of people around us initially until the suburbs started, creeping in around us, and the cornfields became houses and that
Hmm.
sort of thing, which sort of happened in the early 60s. But what I would do, one of my favorite memories is that I would just be alone in my room with a record player. And our family had, because of other family members had gifted us with records. And we had records from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and
Wow.
60s. And like the really thick ones from the 20s and all of those. One
Yeah.
song I remember is I haven't been home for 3 whole nights, last night, tonight, and tomorrow, which is a song about a guy on a bender. Now I'm a little kid and I'm in the room and I'm just listening to this drunken guy singing this song. And I always just, imagine myself just being drunk and, I'm calling someone and, from a corner saying, I'm at the corner of walk and don't walk, being that person. So I had a really great fantasy life, being alone a lot. I mean, I had a brother and a sister, but they were more responsible than I was, and they were doing chores and things like that. And I was sitting in the room
Sure.
playing these tunes, and I just loved listening to old
Wow.
songs. It just kind of became a part of me, and so
Sure.
I live with an earworm in my head always. There's always a song in me going on, and that's a big part of me, and I think that's one
Wow.
of the reasons why I'm so fond of musical theater because I just knew all those songs growing up, and so,
Got it. Is it fair to
like,
say that your first love was music as opposed to theater?
oh
Or
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah,
wow.
definitely. Yeah. I did a show in junior high school. Was the no, no, no. The first I directed a show in the fourth grade, and I asked my teacher if I could do a play about Abraham Lincoln, and I don't remember really much of the content of it, other than it had to do with people talking about Abraham Lincoln being elected and there being a bet. And the person who lost the bet had to have their hair cut. I don't know why. I thought this was good when I was nine. And I had a bunch of people over to my house to work in my parents' garage to rehearse it. And then we performed it in my class for the rest of the class. And I have this memory of, I am running the show. I'm both in it and running it simultaneously. And the other people that were in it would get confused at certain times, and I just run up and try to fix them. And then we had somebody in very long hair, and that needed to go away because he was the one who lost the bet. And so I had yarn a thing with yarn on his head, and I hadn't really thought about how to get that off. So I just went over to him and just yanked it and threw it away, which got this great laugh. Like, I knew it was the wrong thing to do, yet I knew it was so wrong that it was going to work
Yep.
for me. And as someone, I guess, who requires attention, that was a very successful day for
Sure.
me.
How old were you
And
at this point? What grade was
I,
this?
I would have been in fourth grade, so I would have
Fourth
been
grade.
nine at that time.
Wow.
Then I think the next thing I did was the Pirates of Penzance in junior high school, and I was the captain of the police or the sergeant of the police who sings the Tarantara song, and they gave me my costume, and with it was a handlebar mustache that I could clip in my nose. And I got in front of a mirror and just started twitching it from side to side. And I thought, this looks hilarious. So to the beat of the music, I was twitching it from side to side. Well, this was, highly successful in terms of what I wanted, which was laugh, please.
I love it.
And I found that really worked. And I think that I was just kind of hooked on the theater from that point on. Uh,
Sure.
I did
Wow.
other, I did other things in high school, and then in my senior year in high school, I was like, I knew that I just wanted to be in the theater. It was so much more fun than real life, and I wanted to be doing that, and I just knew I wanted to be doing it. I was also very interested in art, and I was taking a course based on a book called Civilization, which was like a basic history of European art. And I took a class where that was the centerpiece. And in taking that class, my teacher said to me, you need to go to Europe and see some of this. And I was like, yes. So I went home to my mother and I said, could I go to Europe? Which I knew she would say no. And
Hmm.
so I said, I want to go on this study group, something called American Leadership Study Groups program, and go to Europe at the end of my junior year. And I was sure she would say, no, it's too expensive. You mustn't do that. And I get home and she goes, sure, if you can pay for it. Well,
Wow.
I was working at the nursery, and I was a very lucky kid because I could work. I could always work, and I was
Sure.
making money constantly. So it's pretty great when your parents have a small business and they need you. So it's kind of so it was kind of fun, and I saved the money to go, and then went on this trip. On this trip, the reason I'm bringing this up is on this trip, I met someone who told me about Webster College,
Ah.
and he was from St. Louis, and he said that I might want to look at that as a school. So I did, and the funny thing about that is that I came to visit. I came to St. Louis to visit it on Labor Day of my senior year. And do you know how Webster Groves High is nestled behind uh,
Yeah,
Webster,
absolutely.
what
My
is
wife
now
is an
Webster
alum.
University? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I thought that when I visited, and of course no one was there, but when I went to visit, that the high school was part of the college. So I had thought that it was larger than it actually was.
Oh, yes.
Uh,
It's already pretty small.
yeah, so I applied and got in, and then they said there were 70 first year acting students coming in, and they told us to look to the left and look to the right. We were sitting in the Browning, what is now the Browning Theater. And they said, look to the left and look to the right. Those people or you will be gone
Hmm.
soon. And it was like, whoa, okay, that's an interesting way to start
Right.
school. And it was all about, we're going to cut you,
Yeah, yeah. For those that don't know,
Well,
Jeffrey and I are both alums of Webster University. What was those in those days, Webster College, and they don't do it this way anymore. But in those days, after your second year of college, in the conservatory program itself, half the class is auditions and is cut. I had a girlfriend who was cut. It was yeah. It's a tumultuous time.
yeah, yeah. We had, by my second year, we were down to 40. And
Mm.
then after the cuts, we were 11.
Wow.
So it was pretty draconian. And
Yeah.
a lot of people never got over it, ever got over the pain of that. But then, I was there. I was thinking of Jerry Kowarski's sweet review of Cabaret from a couple years ago. And then I just thought the first review I ever got from Jerry Kowarski was 50 years ago,
Wow.
when I did a little night music there.
Um,
And that review was just as sweet.
yeah. Yeah.
But then I did that, and then after that, I went to New York for a while, and was doing showcases, and I did a little tour in California, and then back to New York, which is a trip in its own way because I was doing more waiting tables than anything else. So it was that.
Uh,
Oh, one of the things about that was I worked at Maxwell's Plum, which is like it's the same company as Tavern on the Green, but it was like a singles bar designed for New Yorkers. I mean, it was, and Donald Donald met Ivana at Maxwell's Plum,
oh my gosh.
and uh,
Ivanka. Yes.
and I
Yeah.
waited on Roy Cohn.
No way.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And he was kind of like this, yeah, kind of. Oh, he wanted to be in the most place where he could be seen. He always had to be seated where everyone could see him in the restaurant. And it was
Wow.
the most popular, it was called a singles bar, but it was it's sort of like a Viennese cafe, and then the back was a formal dining room. It
Hmm.
had Tiffany ceiling that was gorgeous. Donald now the restaurant is gone, and Donald bought the ceiling. So he has that in Trump Tower now.
Oh, I didn't even know this. Wow.
Yeah. There's trivia you never needed to
That's
know.
right.
But
No, it's a
yeah, and New York was fine, but I was really fine, particularly doing showcases, that how tiresome I found the directors. And then I started thinking, instead of being an actor, I really would, because I find myself wanting to direct. And that little boy in the fourth grade who was pushing everybody around while on stage, I think there was a director there, and I was feeling that. So
of course.
so then I went to grad school at Virginia Commonwealth. So I went there, and I could teach. So I was teaching acting while I was throughout grad school, and that was fun. And I was just really sort of finding my way. I just really knew I wanted to direct, so I went there for directing, and had a wonderful time. And I spent a semester at Arena Stage, and I was actually at Arena the same time Bill Whitaker was there.
Really? Okay.
He was I think doing more front of house stuff, and I was working with Les Waters on Anne Devlin play called Ourselves Alone or
Ah,
Sinn Fein, and oh my gosh, I learned so much there,
sure.
so much, because there was Liviu Chile was doing stuff, and Yuri Lubimov, the lighting designer, was directing Crime and Punishment at that time, and that work just really impacted me. I should go
Hmm.
back because Jack O'Brien was another great impact on me, really
Really?
huge. Yeah. When I was at Webster, he was sort of sleepwalking because he was doing what is it, Houston Light Opera? Is that the name of it?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, he was doing Porgy and Bess there while he was doing Once in a Lifetime at the Rep.
Hmm.
He was like constantly going back and forth. But I loved watching him direct, and his his way of directing was so actorly because he was an actor before he was a director.
Right.
And he was doing things that I was learning in directing class were bad things to do, but he was doing them really well. And he he uh, he truly impacted me. I mean, that was a major impact being in a show with him,
Wow.
and watching him work with actors. And
Mm.
I just thought that was very freeing for me because, it really learned not to be so hands-on. And he was very hands-on and unashamedly so, and is quite successful at what he does. So that was a major impact on me.
Sure.
Yeah. So I decided I wanted to direct. So I was a finalist at a very nice liberal arts college in America.
Okay. That shall remain nameless.
That shall remain nameless. They called me in March, and by the end of April, I was still waiting. And they kept calling me and saying, just hang in there, hang in.
Wow.
And then they gave me, it was the beginning of May of '88, they gave me the no.
Wow.
And right after that, Henry called me and, and said, "We've heard about you because of my time in St. Louis." And Fontaine Sire of the
Oh,
Theater
wow.
Project Company had recommended me to him. They had lunch, and
I've designed for Fontaine. She was amazing.
she was something. Yeah, she's
Mm.
really, she's a real presence in town.
Yes.
So anyway, it was Fontaine who talked to Henry, and she said we want him back in town, and he jumped on it and he called me, and it was like uh, kismet. So
Wow. So
yeah,
this is 1988. You had just
yeah,
gotten your graduate degree at VCU.
right.
Gotcha.
Right. And then, I suddenly had a job. Uh, Henry got me for a lot less than the tenure position that I was thinking I was getting,
Sure, sure, sure.
but I was happy to be there. And so it was, yeah, that was
Was
kind of
it
the
was
story.
it nice back in those days to come back to St. Louis after having
Oh,
gone to
yeah.
undergrad
Well,
here?
it was so interesting because I became very popular. And so I was doing shows all over town. It was like I was really in demand because I'd been away.
Hmm.
And particularly Theater Project was after me to do stuff. It's funny because my granddaughter goes to New City School, and New City School was the venue that we did Greater Tuna in,
Oh,
in
nice.
I think that year maybe.
Yeah.
And then I was directing ITC and the Imaginary Theater Company at the Rep. And so I was really busy because it was just a lot that first couple of years. It was a lot. And Henry
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah, do it. Go ahead and do it. Do this."
Yeah.
So he was fun to work for. Yeah.
Wow. And that's interesting you bring up ITC, Imaginary Theater Company. That's the sort of touring educational wing of the Repertory Theater of St. Louis. And you were artistic supervisor for a solid 20 years
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah. And that was
just as,
really fun. I enjoyed it. And Steve Wolf was great. And he said, come to the text of everything. Come. He said, you're on the artistic staff. You come. And he was
nice.
so welcoming and wonderful. Only once in that 20 years did he refuse a play that I was suggesting to do.
Wow. Wow.
And that was the Scottish play right after 9/11. And
Oh,
he said, we don't need to be thinking about killing kings right now, something like that.
wow. Okay.
Hey, fun.
Yeah. I mean, you did the work of some of my favorite people in the world, Connie Congdon,
Yeah,
I've known for years, Kim Aesop Wiley, Jack
yeah.
Herrick. I did summer stock with Jack Herrick in the Sticks in Virginia
Hmm.
years ago. It's just it's in my mind, it's just this wonderful repertoire of really creative writers, creative
Yeah,
artistic folks, creative team members that you got to work with straight from 1988 all the way through 2010. I mean, it's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
So,
And Jack Herrick was really fun because that show was probably the most popular show that we did in all those years. And I mean, he would just do really insane things. I mean, just this wild imagination,
yeah,
and it would work, and it would work with
yeah,
young audiences, I mean, really well.
yeah,
And I had some, really I had an interesting designer who was colorblind, and so he'd have to go around and show, colors to everybody else and ask them how do these work. He was putting together really crazy colors, and it was all I loved it. I just loved it. The first
Amazing.
show I did was Sue Greenberg had written Pinocchio, and I was coming right back from Arena, right? So I hadn't been back too long. And so all of that stuff was fresh in my head. I was thinking of Andre Gregory's Alice in Wonderland and the wildness of that. Well, I was
Yeah.
doing Pinocchio, and we did it in sort of a commedia style, and the only curtains that we had for changes were the clothes themselves on racks, and I had them put on wheels, and so they were sliding back and forth across the stage, and then the actors would get behind it, hang something up, take something else, take it off, hang it up, and put something else on, and come back as somebody else. I had two flautists in the cast, one of whom was also a gymnast.
Hmm.
And so we had one flute shared between two actors. And so most of the music that happened was between the two actors. And I had them throw it. So they would have to throw the flute to one another. And, and it would go flipping through the air, and then the next person would take it, and then they would play it. And then flipping through the air, and the other one would do it while accompanying the scene and all this stuff. And it was just really, and then Jimmy Kozlov was the actor that played Pinocchio, and he was a gymnast and had like these incredibly strong legs. And so my idea for that was that he never touches the ground. Basically had him in the air for 40
Wow.
minutes,
Wow.
which was, ridiculous thing to ask. But I was very young and thinking, he could do it,
Yeah.
and he could do it, but having to do it 50 times was, I think, hard on his body.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at that time, I felt just incredible creative license. And I think people were getting mad at me. The tech people were getting mad at me because we didn't have the budget to do what I wanted to do. And I kept asking for more. I, I have memories of doing that. Dottie Marshall saying once of me, telling the stage manager, she just said to the stage manager, stick a fork in him and tell him he's done. But great memories, really
Great
great
memories.
memories. Yeah.
So I want to get to your teaching. You began at WashU in the performing arts department, or was it called program back in those
It was
days?
department, yeah.
Yeah, in 1988, and you've taught multiple classes, freshman focus classes, acting classes, public speaking, voice and speech, theater for young audiences. You've been to the Globe many times, I assume, over the multiple
Well,
summers
a
with
couple
students.
times,
A
a
couple
couple.
times.
Yeah.
Fundamentals of directing, of course. I just want to kind of take a look back at this 38 years of teaching in WashU's PAD and kind of ask you if it's even possible to, I guess, encapsulate that time, or have there been any epiphanies for you in thinking about just that longevity, which is quite not only amazing but impressive.
Well, I never really thought of it as long. You had said to me earlier, what has WashU taught you? And what I've really learned, or what does the PAD taught me, is that it is possible to get up and go to work every day joyously
Mm.
because you enjoy the people you're with and really enjoy doing exactly what you do. And
That
so
sounds
it's just felt like that. And so it hasn't felt long. My retirement is really about 5 years ago. Just all of my friends started to say to me, "When are you going to retire?" And I found that such a shocking thought because I had never thought about retiring. And but then they kind of look at me and they go, "So when are you going to retire?"
yeah, yeah.
And so many of my friends have retired, and you hear it so many times that then it starts to become something real.
Mm,
And that really sort of happened to me. I just got to the point that I felt like I can feel I don't have the energy that I had before. And I
mm.
could feel through some, illnesses that I've had and things
Yes,
that I have just not had the stamina that I once had.
fair.
And I don't want to hang, and I've become more of a curmudgeon over time, which I have always admired curmudgeons. And I didn't really think I would turn into one, but then sort of
Oh,
found that
well, you're my
I
favorite curmudgeon. That's for sure.
My favorite curmudgeon was Annalisa Mertz.
I have heard stories.
I
Uh,
adored her. I just adored her. And I mean, she would, because she just always spoke the truth about everything. She was exactly unvarnished.
yep.
Uh, and, with this Teutonic sensibility of you just name the problem in front of you. I just always loved her. I would love it when she would go to a dance concert and just sit there and very loudly go, "This is terrible." And I don't know what was
Oh,
terrible because I thought it was great.
right,
But
right.
she was,
David Dorfman, a previous podcast guest, does a pretty good impression of her as
that's-
well. Yeah, yeah.
but I
Um,
loved her, and I ultimately she loved me, and it was like it was this. I can't think of her without opening my heart. It's like
hmm,
in 2011, she came into Cindy's office, and I was in there, and she said, I am yellow," she said. And I looked at her skin and she was really, her color was different.
really?
Um, and 6 weeks later, she was gone.
Oh my goodness.
She had advanced pancreatic cancer. But for
Wow.
me, it was just such an interesting time because I had an unusually light semester and I really had time. And Annalisa had alienated a lot of people at the university. I mean, just
Sure.
she was always in a fight. I mean, she was
When you're as unvarnished as she was.
yeah. So I kind of would go over and see her every day and check on her and take her to doctor's appointments and things like that.
Hmm.
And at one point we were on the elevator at the Missouri Baptist Hospital going, she was having a port put in to receive chemo. And we were in the elevator with the doctor, and the doctor said, "Do you have any family?" And she grabbed my hand
Oh,
and said, "He is my family."
oh,
Which
I I can't. I just can't. Sorry.
Oh God, it was so,
Wow.
oh,
That's yeah,
wow.
yeah,
And then I was with her when I could be,
mhm,
throughout that 6 weeks.
yeah.
And uh, it was, it was just so meaningful to me. And just very emotional, to see it. And one day she said, and this is so Annalisa, she said, "Jeffrey, I'm so grateful to you." And she said, "This is what I want you to do." And we were in her bedroom, and she said, "Go to my library and take a book, just one book. Take a book."
You're only allowed one book.
Just one book. It was
Okay.
great. It was so great.
Oh,
Um, but that was very meaningful to me, and that was when I think the show was the Stroke Scriptures that was happening, that Bill had directed, and I had to leave her. She had dinner, and then I had to leave her to go to the show, and I went to the show, and I was sitting, in the middle of the audience in the Hochner studio, and suddenly I got really sick. I was like, I could feel I was getting a fever and I was spiking. I was burning up. I
mm,
couldn't sit still. And it came out of nowhere. And so I just had to walk out and I totally interrupted the performance because you have to go out that door, where
yeah. Of
the
course.
audience
Yeah.
is looking right at you. I just got up and left and collapsed on the floor.
Oh my God.
And of course, ushers came out to help me and that sort of thing. And then I was okay after that, and that was at about 9:15 in the evening. And then I got a phone call that it was at 9:15 that Annalisa had died.
Oh my gosh.
Is that extraordinary?
Yeah.
That was like, wow. I mean, it was just,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Huh. There was
But
a
she was really something, and I just had I just felt connected to her in a
yeah.
wonderful way. I had the same kind of feeling with Herb Metz too. I really enjoyed Herb Metz,
Sure.
who was, very well known on the campus, and
Yeah. Stephen Sater spoke very
yeah,
highly of Herb
yeah.
Metz. Yeah. But Jeffrey, I must remind you, this podcast episode's about you.
Oh,
And I
okay.
mean that in a completely sort of reverent way. I mean, you have influenced generations of students here. You were director of the Danforth Scholars Program. You've directed shows since 1989. as I told you before we started recording, you were in the first show I designed at WashU, which was
Yes.
Hairspray. You played Wilbur in
Yes.
Hairspray, and you were brilliant at it, by the way. And I was immediately like, I think as a young faculty member here, I had spent 3 years in Seattle, but I was still quite young and green. And I remember thinking, here's a person that has one foot firmly planted in the craft and doing shows, and then the other is obviously your dedication to teaching. And I mean, I just want to kind of hold that up as an example to anyone that thinks you can't do both. You've done both for 38 years. It's just extraordinary to me. I mean, are there favorite? And this is as I told Anna Pileggi, are there highlights? That's kind of a cheap word, I think. It's not fair, but are there highlights to your career at WashU? Are
Oh,
there
yeah.
shows that really you think, as I like to say, fired on all cylinders?
Yeah, I had some. I had one was Rob Hankey handed me a script one day, and it was an adaptation of Corneille's Les Illusions Comiques by Tony Kushner, which is called The Illusion. And I read that script and I was like, wow, I love this. And I wanted to do it. And so I got to do it. It had to be like in the mid 90s. Yes, it was
95, if I'm looking at your
95.
CV.
Yeah. Yeah. And that one won the Riverfront Times Best University Production of the Year.
Wow.
And which I was delighted to get. But it was so memorable. It was, shortly after the Aladdin movie came out. And so I said to my scenic designer, to Bruce Bergner, I just said, build me a cave of wonders. And he ran colored ribbons from the cyc all the way to the back of the theater,
Oh,
the
wow.
back wall of the theater, and expanding out. And it's a play that takes place in a cave, which of course is a metaphor for the theater itself.
Hmm.
And I just loved it, and it's a love story about really about a father and his relationship to his son. It was just so it was kind of magical, and so that's a really great memory. We actually had a magic box in it. We were doing some magic in it, and it was just an extraordinary thing and a terrific memory. I have to say, Robert Neblett, who was the graduate student at the time, I think it was his first year as a graduate student with us. I don't think we would have won that award without Robert Neblett's performance because
Wow.
he was so stunningly good
Hmm.
as the wizard. We actually took the Addison family pictures down and
Did you?
put pictures of Robert as the wizard in the place to do it.
Nice.
Another good memory was when I did Beggar's Opera after having been to London, and I was at Stratford with Henry, and we went to a production of Beggar's Opera, and that one was it was really fun, and I wanted to sort of recreate that fun, and so we had. What the students have taught me to say is sex workers and pickpockets
Yeah.
greeting the audience, trying to pick people's pockets as they came in to the theater in their 18th century costume and so on. A memory of that. It was really Mark Adams and Michael Holmes were wonderful in that, as were others. Gosh, it was just a really great cast. And I asked the actors who had accosted the people as they came in at intermission to warn them that the last person back was going to get trouble from the cast. Last person back from the restroom was going to get trouble. And and one night, everybody was back, and one guy was left out. And guess who it was? It was Chancellor Danforth. And I'm going, oh my God, no, because now we're going to give him trouble. This is going to be bad.
Yeah.
And so one of the beggars like ran to him as he's slowly walking down the stairs, ran up to him, and I thought he's going to do something. We were going to abuse the last person who came in, not
Yeah.
physically, but
Yeah.
just to make fun of them.
Yeah.
Here it is, Bill Danforth. He's so left. Ibby was already in her place, and Bill is not there yet. And he probably got stopped by somebody in the lobby who was
Of course.
asking him something. And so I'm just holding my head, going, "Oh no, what's going to happen now? Don't abuse Bill Danforth, please." And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, and the actor, gosh, I'm trying to remember his name, ran at him and then stopped and did this grand bow. Said, King William.
I love it.
And that was great. He handled it beautifully and didn't abuse him at all. So Beggar's Opera was really fun. Oh gosh, trying to think of other things that were there.
Well,
I've loved so many of them.
you directed and I designed in 2014 If I Were You on other Elvis Presley songs. This was a student written piece by Leah Barsanti. And
Right,
the
yeah.
reason I ask about that one is because your son Hal was in that show. He was
That was
Elvis.
weird for me. It was really weird for me because Leah really wanted Hal. She was like, "You have to cast Hal," and I was like, "I don't think this is, so good for me to do." I say, I'm thinking anybody but Hal, please, because it just smacks of nepotism. But Leah was very firm about it, and so I just did it,
I love it.
and I loved working with him. He was such a pro.
That's great.
He was really always on task and never like he was at home. So it was he was just great. It was that was fun
Wow.
to have him do it. I'm trying to think of other ones that really stick with me. Uh,
Sure.
the Illusion, Beggar's Opera. Oh, Three Penny Opera.
Yes.
Three Penny Opera. Sean designed that, and I wanted that done. Are you familiar with Ridge Theater out of Virginia?
I'm not, but
Uh, they're at Virginia Tech.
okay.
And this guy, and I can't remember his name right now, but he created this technology in his garage that he uses scrim and puts actors behind the scrim, keeps the actors behind the scrim, and the set is all created with projection onto scrim.
Gotcha.
So Sean built, he still has it in his office, this series of black platforms. So we had, actors on all kinds of different levels, and then we would overlay an image, and then like the actors behind the scrim, and we watched the whole play. When MacHeath actually breaks out of prison, we brought the scrim up and ran around the audience, and then once we caught him, we put him back in and did the rest of the show behind the scrim. And it was that show. After that show opened was, I think, my favorite day at WashU, and I will tell you why. Because the following Tuesday, I received two letters in my mailbox, physical letters. And I opened the first one, and there's a copy for me that was sent to Mark Wrighton, Chancellor. And I opened it, and it was from a man from Flower Mound, Texas, who was there, who was at WashU for Parents' Weekend,
Hmm.
saying that I should be fired, that the show was so offensive that the chancellor should fire me. And I loved that. That was like, gosh, this really offended men. The fact that it offended a man from Texas was thrilling to me. And I really enjoyed that. The other letter was a letter from someone in town who said how important it was for them to see theater of that quality at an R1 institution because of what we were doing with the tech elements of the show itself and how impressive that was.
Wow.
They'd never seen anything like it.
Hmm.
And although the actors were frustrated with me because I was putting them behind his scrim and they couldn't see what the audience could see
Of course. Yeah.
at all. So, they were always a little bit at sea with it because they just couldn't see what
Sure.
and
Sure.
it was pretty amazing. And then a Brecht scholar came, so I have pictures of it in his journal. It's something like Brecht Quarterly, or something. And I think Rob Hankey had something to do with that, with him coming and reviewing it, and he loved it. And so that was a good one. That was one that I
Yeah. That sounds
but
like a
the man
special
from
one.
Claremont, Texas said, with a name like Three Penny Opera, it should be fun.
Oh,
And I wrote back, and copied Mark Wright, that Bertolt Brecht's childhood was, spent as an ambulance, his young manhood was spent as an ambulance driver. And one of the things that he had to do was saw the limbs off of
oh.
German soldiers in the trenches.
Yes.
That's really, the world
Hmm.
behind the play. Anyway, so it was just the greatest day. I loved getting those two letters so much. I think
Could not have been more different from each other, those two
yeah, I think the
letters. Yeah.
move out of the dorm, I lost those letters because I had them in a binder together that you
Hmm.
could do one and then the other one.
Yeah.
And it was so fun, just the how opposite they were. Oh, when I did hair, I had Jay, young man who was playing Burger in Hair, mooned a woman in the audience.
Whoa.
She was so offended that she called KMOX and on the air went off about how offensive
Whoa.
it was. And I loved that. And then Charlie Brennan called me and I got airtime to advertise hair on KMOX, and we sold that sucker out. And that show was really funny because I got a bad review because of the nude scene and how important the nude scene is to hair. And when I was casting it, everybody would come up to me and say, "Are you?" Or certainly the women who were auditioning would come up to me and say, "Are you doing the nude scene?" And I said, "I'm not going to do anything that I'm not going to coerce anyone into doing anything they don't want to do," would be my
Hmm.
answer. And then I keep getting, "Are you doing the nude scene? Are you doing the nude scene?" Because what people know about hair is basically that there's a nude scene in it, but
Right.
there was no reference to a nude scene at all in the script. So when it came to that time, and I realized, I said, rather than stand in a circle holding hands with everyone feeling forced to be naked, let us just create a kind of bacchanalia. If you want to take your clothes off, you can. If you don't want to take your clothes off, you don't have to. And nobody is allowed to coerce anybody else into taking their clothes off.
I mean, I've kept you long enough, but I just want to try to somehow, I don't know, ask you, what will you remember about 38 years at WashU? What, if you could, in just a few sentences, like encapsulate that time and that, as I'm sure many alumni listening will attest, the influence you had. What is it meant for you to be doing this, teaching, directing, pissing off Catholics?
Yeah, well,
I mean, what does it mean to have done it for so long, and what will you miss? What will you remember about the time that you spent teaching in the PAD?
I think there's something to, well, I always used to say that admissions gets it right, that you're in class or in a show with these very bright young people that are really interested and excited to be doing it. And it's, I was talking to Julia about this, like people describe my classes as fun, and somehow that in an academic environment is not okay, that it is perhaps not considered then rigorous enough or not considered, something that it's not, and it comes out as fun. But there is great joy in the work that we do.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have ever wanted to do it if it wasn't fun. I want to go deep. I want to really dig into a play. I want to think abstractly about a play. And I really want to love it and do it. And that's how I feel about the classes. That's how I feel about everything that I do. Michael Shurtleff said for actors to think about every scene as though this is going to be about me in a love relationship.
Hmm.
And I think that of that way larger. I love teaching. I love sharing the things that I know. I love those aha moments when the student something really happens and knocks something loose for them. And so I call it fun. I wish I had a deeper word for it, but it is there's something really wonderful about it. And when you see someone have those moments of suddenly, oh, this makes sense to me. Oh, now I know what I want to do and how I want to do it with confidence. The confidence too, watching people, grow in their confidence as they're, over time is that's that's such a wonderful thing. So it gives back a lot.
The point of this particular episode, and it was recently did one with Anna Pileggi. This particular episode with you, Jeffrey, is about celebrating you and hopefully honoring the length of time, the amount of students. It's a butterfly effect, the influence you've had on students, and they've gone on to lead careers in whatever field that
Yeah.
are better for it, for the fun. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that the fun they had in your class, in your classes, the mentorship you gave them when they were still students and still forming as young adults is extraordinary. And I just want to sort of say that and say thank you. Thank you on behalf of all of us that teach with you every day, all of the students who have have made their way in and out of your classroom over since 1988 have been in your class. I think that's a really laudable, momentous kind of thing to celebrate. And so I just want to celebrate you.
Well, thanks. Oh, I had prior to us talking, I was sitting on the sofa for about 90 minutes, and I started thinking of students, and I have a list. Can I share it?
You may, yes. For those listening, this was a something we talked about before we started recording. You decided to come up with a list of 10, but it's now a list of 70
Yeah,
students.
I think it's 70. Yeah.
70.
I just started thinking about
Yeah,
students over the years, and then I thought, well, I'm
yeah.
just going to name them. People
So
that
if this were a video podcast, we'd have a rolling scrolling credit over your face of all of these names, but it's not. Listen for your name and the names, alumni,
Okay.
and
Well,
go when ready, Jeffrey.
let me start with a regret that I know just because I just sat there for 90 minutes, these names bubbled up. But I know there are so many more. After this, I'm going to think, oh my God, I didn't say, oh, I didn't say, oh, I didn't say, of all of these wonderful people. But I put them on this list because either they were just incredibly talented or so delightful to be in company of and to be in community with. And so these are the names that came up. I was just asking myself, was that? So here we go. I'm going to go fast. Well, a couple I have to stop, but I'm going to go as fast as I can. Michael Holmes, my gosh. Robert Neblett, Pushkar Sharma, Cameron Averett, Laura Ernst, Kat O'Connor, Justin Hubner, Brooke Kleinman, Maddie Picard, Brooke Bagnall, uh, Haley and Taylor Emerson, love those girls. Sathya, Robin Kaysen, Katie Puglisi, Noga Landau, Nick Chokesy, Aaron Witten, Alessandra Silva, Felder, Kate Drummond, Will Jacobs, Catherine Athenson, Ricky Pettinato, who really taught me to use proper pronouns, Carly Rosenbaum, Danielle Bryden, Heather Anderson, Matthew Kalmans, Eddie Kurtz, Sarah Abraham, Perone Yusufada, Alexa Shoemaker, Shani Warwick, Maya Geyer, Patty Holleran, Rich Byrne, Saskia DeVries, Mitch Eagles, Gabby Schneider, Eric Kuhn, Sally Whitman, Sarah Wagner, Laura Flanagan, Erica Nagel, Chauncey Thomas, Amy Saul, Elle Stewart, Jihan Rue, Ken Gurney, Kim Wisman, Mark Rosenmutter, Justin Joseph, Shawan Howard, Erica Nagel, Reynolds Whalen, Liza Birkenmeyer, Berkey, Carmen Marshowski, who was a student, David Weiss, Allie Hyman, Artem Kramer, Pete Winfrey, Matt Rosenbaum, Teresa Drakamp, Sarah Pillay, Mackham and Desiree, Dan Tobin, Rob McLemore, Judith Lesser, Christina Doggerel, Brian Stojak, Kaylin Busalis, Lauren Dusick, Carolina, oh my God, Carolyn Crass, Leah Sorio, Lindsay Brill, Max Rissman, Kim Wisman, Jordana Kritzer, Megan Boyd, Marissa Wiggerson, Mike Castelline, Phoebe Richards, Kiki Milner, Nostra Namadi, Ali Coop, John Spernoga, Jen Losi, Jay Reese, Emily Levy, Tijuana Ricks. I'm almost done. Leah Fratellone, Steve Sislin, Paul Pagano, Jane Seal, Jen Losi, Brian Golden, Emily Madison, Kate Roselle, Carrie Mulvaney, and Liz Newkirk. And I'm going to stop. Okay. 'Cause
That is,
I know that I've done that. I'm going to regret
of
the other
course.
70 that I didn't mention that
My
are
gosh.
phenomenal people too.
I'm impressed you can remember that many
Oh
names. I
God.
mean,
Well,
I can hardly remember the names of my students in class last semester. Like
well,
that's
after 38 years, but then too, I had, these are folks that for the most part I had in class and then also in show.
sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
And who just have meant a lot to me. So,
Well,
yeah.
and you have meant a lot to them. So thank you for your time. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing the podcast. I sincerely, sincerely appreciate it.
Well, I've really enjoyed it.
And
Really
my best to you in your retirement.
good.
And thank you.
And thanks for doing all you do, which is a
Absolutely.
lot.
Mhm.
Well, the other thing is my time on the South 40, I was Jill Stratton was about all the time, and I would always call her the Dean of Joy,
Dean of Joy, absolutely.
and
Yeah.
she would always call me the Professor of Kindness.
Oh,
And I feel like I've learned about kindness from being around all these folks.
yeah.
I hope the students know, and that or former students and former students, I'm certain that they do that they teach us as well. Uh, and every show that I've done, I have really learned something. And I guess what I've learned most is how important community is, how valuable it is, how meaningful it is. And to be in community with all these people that I've named and the people that I've neglected to name has been just a great life. It really has. I was walking on the campus just yesterday and getting all nostalgic as I was, I just took a walk around and it was like, and there's so much meaning there. I just feel grateful for all of it. I know it's time to go. I can feel that, but also I just have a tremendous sense of gratitude. All of the faculty that have been around, it's just, it's a joy to go into work. It's
Yeah.
to see people that really care about the students, and I think that's a hallmark of the department. And building community is pretty great. It's a great thing.
Well, it's been an honor to teach with you and to be a colleague of yours in this department.
Well, back at you.
Well, that was pretty darn special. Thank you to Jeffrey Matthews for his time. I hope that you got a lot out of that particular episode. We honor Jeffrey as he retires after 38 years in our department. So with that, happy trails to you, Jeffrey Matthews. To you all listening, thank you for listening to the PAD podcast.